This right here is the No Idea Podcast with your hosts, the Sturgis Brothers, two guys from northern Wisconsin, talking hunting, fishing, and outdoor equipment. So crack a bush latte, kick back, and enjoy the show. No Idea.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode here on the No Idea YouTube channel. This is a podcast number 9 already, and sitting to my right is our special guest, Mr. Dan Kasper, and we'll share a lot more about who he is and what he's about here on the show as well. And then on that side is my brother. He makes up the second half of the No Idea YouTube channel. So again, welcome. If you haven't already, we'd love for you to hit the subscribe button, follow along so you don't miss any content that we're putting out. And Adam, we've been putting out a lot of content lately.
We're on a roll.
You are we are.
A lot of ideas in there coming to fruition.
We have a lot of ideas that we have no idea what the hell we're doing. So, hey, let's do this, guys. Because, Dan, you absolutely love hunting. Mm-hmm. You love outdoors. Let's recap our deer season. So, how'd yours go?
I tagged out with a spike and a doe opening morning. And then after that, nothing. So, no albino deer, but that's about it.
I saw that video.
Yeah.
I saw that video.
Yeah.
I saw that video.
And it's kind of fun. Like, we've had that land for 12 years. Every year we've had an albino deer, either on trail cameras or hunting.
So that's a genetic thing that's been sticking around in your.
So when we were looking at actually buying it, drove right up to it. There was one bedded down. I'm like, that's got to be a sign.
Yeah.
we might have to buy this one.
Well, that's good. So do you process your own?
We do. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
So you took it home, hung it in the garage,
skinned it out, deboned it. We'll cut it up a little bit later on and stuff, but it's in the freezer. So. Speaking of which, I know because we were talking a little bit off the air, a buddy of mine is his dad's a taxidermy, so I always wanted a cape done.
Yeah.
So I was very careful on one of them, and so he's going to get that. Got to put that in my man cave.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Adam and I, we hunt public land, and this year was it was fun.
It was fun. It was frustrating.
Yep.
It's the first year I've been able to have that Monday and Tuesday. Normally I have to work on that Monday and Tuesday, and I'm fortunate enough, it's difficult to get those days off, but I was fortunate enough to be able to get those off this year for the first time ever. And so we were able to stay up, all the way through Wednesday. So came up Friday, stayed till Wednesday, and it was fun. The gun deer season has turned into a little bit more of a family affair. Mom and dad are up there, and all the kids this year. And Erin, your wife came up. My wife will stay hundreds of miles away from our deer camp. So it's like a requirement to shower at a truck stop before I get home. It's that bad. But anyways, it was a lot of fun. It was a frustrating year, and I know there's a lot of frustrated hunters around the state, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I think a lot of it was so warm those first couple of days, and I think it just was a weird October. I mean, the whole climate leading up to the gun deer season was just weird, and I think the deer movement overall was just kind of off by us a little bit.
I noticed by us, it's we ended up having. It felt like every hunter that was hunting the public land up by us was by us, like around us.
Yep, and it's so tough because we try to get up there as much as we can, and we'll do our spy point trail cameras, and we'll put those all around and. Move them around to try to quote unquote pattern the deer. And it's just difficult because when you get to that gun deer season, it's after the first 2 hours.
Yeah. One of the funniest things was, one of the most frustrating things this year was, so opening morning is a tradition that my 2 youngest kids come out with me. So we sit in a ground blind. Adam's girls, they go out with him. So he sits in his ground blind. So we're not going to see much. And sure enough, we're not seeing much at all. There's some shooting around us. And then we start getting texts from my son. He's like, yep, just saw 3. And we're like, well, why didn't you shoot? Uncle Adam was like, why didn't you shoot? And he's like, well, I want to see if there's a buck. Because in his mind, he still thinks it's rut and all this good stuff. And we're like, oh my God, dude, you got to shoot. And then, just saw a buck, but it was a small one. We're like, dude. And then finally he came in for lunch and he's like, I probably should have shot that one, shouldn't I? And I'm like, yeah. So then that evening he took a spike. Yeah. It was his first full harvested buck. Last year he shot his first buck, but we didn't find it until 2 weeks later. But this time, first buck, he got to gut it. We got to drag it. He got to drive it home on the 4-wheeler. And it was awesome. I took a little one as well.
Yeah.
So
I played peekaboo with a really nice, I believe it was an 8-pointer. Saw it 2 different days, but it was always driving down the road. So then I tried to cut it off on a fire lane, and I bumped it. It literally barked. It sounded like a dog. It barked at me and then took off. Then I saw it a day later, and it happened to be a truck on the other side of the road that was watching the same buck, and then I was part of the big group, and then they went in, and a half hour later heard a bunch of shooting, and I'm sure they got it. So, but yeah, we saw a handful of deer. They're just a
it was
different
still
year.
good. It was different. You ice fish?
I used to a long time ago.
But
Just
not
haven't done it recently. No.
Hudson never wants.
That's the thing. Hudson actually, so he's 6, and last year he said he wants to go ice fishing.
There you go.
And I'm like, all right, we're gonna have to go now, man.
Yeah, you'll have to come with us anytime you want to.
Absolutely.
Our kids, and it's a hoot. But we
Yeah.
got out first ice last weekend.
I saw that picture. You guys are nuts.
Adam,
Well,
you tell the story. I got to grab another beer.
We got some information. A lot of our friends ice fish. I've been so much more excited about ice fishing this year than even hunting. I don't know what it was. More than any other year. So I got some information. Couple of lakes just north of Bloomer had some really good ice, 4 to 6 inches, and we went out on that first. And of course they said, yeah, the bite's really between like 6:30 and 8:30. So we have kids and all that kind of stuff. So we get them up, take care of them, and then get out there, and it's 8 o'clock. And by 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock we roll in, and there's 30 guys out on the ice.
Oh, jeez.
By 9 o'clock, everybody was gone, and we just arrived. And it was like, that's such a no idea thing to do.
We have to do this thing called parenting where we got to get our kids to school and all this good stuff.
So yeah, then we transitioned to a different lake. Got another tip from somebody, and it was a bay. You could see the middle of the lake was still open, but I walked out on the ice, and right away you could kind of see it's where the ice is so thin that it melts the snow even. And I stepped in one spot. I was like, I was seconds away from telling Aaron, I'm just not comfortable. We get, and we did drill the holes a couple feet closer to the shoreline, and
like
then,
that's gonna help. Yeah. Like, okay.
But then we started catching fish. We're like, oh, we'll stay here. And then right about 2 minutes before we pulled out, a big blob came up on our Garmin, and I set the hook thinking it was just a nice crappie, and I start reeling, and I'm reeling, and I'm reeling, and then I realize that, my drag is going, and my drag doesn't make a noise or anything. So then it was about a 6-minute fight to get the thing up, and it was a 32-inch northern.
That was
and
a nice one on there.
yeah, it's the biggest northern I've ever caught in open water
it
or
was
hard
sweet.
water. And that's on 3-pound test of the tiny little crappie jig. So,
Damn.
So that episode's gonna drop here soon, hopefully within the next couple of days, but definitely here very soon. So Dan, this is your first time at my house. What'd you think of our fishing boat up front?
Interesting. So when you said fishing boat was out, I'm like, okay,
thinking like a
A
Ranger
Lund?
Riata or
yeah,
something.
or maybe
Lund?
little rowboat with Johnson on the back or something like that. I'm like, okay, that's reminds me of like maybe down south or the
So-
bayou or something like that.
A 19-foot
19.
fish and ski barge is what it is. Fiberglass, flat bottom.
That thing's
So-
got to be heavier than heck, man.
Well, we'll see.
Would you just get it?
Just to tease this out a little bit, we've been Christmas shopping for our wives, and we found the perfect boat.
Yeah.
And we found it. We're actually going to turn this into a whole season, and it's we got it for a couple $100. We found it in a barn outside of Colfax. And we don't know much of the history behind it. We just know it's a 72 Sea Ray. We don't even know if the motor works.
It's a 75 horsepower Stinger.
Stinger.
And the one thing I know about that, because our parents' first pontoon had a 75 horsepower Stinger on it. And it is loud.
They're loud, but they haul.
Two-stroke. Yeah, they do.
They haul.
There you go.
So what? So yes, again, if you haven't subscribed and you want to watch we're going to try. We have no idea what the hell we're doing, but we're going to try to restore this boat. What we want to do, our vision is to turn it into just an awesome fishing machine duck boat machine, and anything else that we want to do on the water with this thing.
Bow fishing.
Bow
I
fishing.
really
He
want
wants
to
a bow fish.
try that.
So
Yeah.
we're gonna try. We're gonna try, and the first episode here will drop before Christmas, and that's gonna be one of just basically the getting it home was
Yeah.
classic. Getting it home.
So
So
I know Steph will never listen to this. So, I mean, her Christmas present is surprise. It'll be a nice surprise for her.
okay, yeah. Let's just say my wife has still when she comes out, she purposely does not look over on that side of the driveway. She is not impressed. So
Just wait till it's all done, though, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Then we'll have a second boat, and she'll be like, "We don't need 2 boats."
Hey, you do.
I'm just stoked to have a boat with the center console. I think that's
I know.
really cool.
It looks badass. Looks badass. But so when you leave, check out the tire if you didn't see the tire.
Oh boy.
And
No, I did not.
just
see the
remember,
tire.
from here to Colfax is about 30 minutes. So
Oh gosh.
just use your imagination. All right. Moving on into things that you can't make up. Like, you can't make this shit up. We always pull 1 or 2 articles. The first one I sent out to you guys for your homework. The first one is actually this guy by the name of Ben. He lives right here in Eau Claire. And I don't know if it happened around here in Eau Claire or if it was south of Eau Claire, north of Eau Claire, whatever. But he shot a mountain lion because he felt threatened by the mountain lion. He was bow hunting. And I didn't realize this. Let me pull it up quick. The article is actually on Meat Eater, Patrick Durkin, which we're trying to get him on our podcast. He's a writer for Meat Eater, and he lives here in Chippewa Falls. So he wrote this big article because what happened is most people feel like, oh, mountain lion, we never see them. I think the last spotting of a mountain lion here in Eau Claire, he said, was in 1908. The last documented cougar, I guess, kill was 1908, 115 years ago. So he said what happened is the minute this hit the news, everybody jumped to conclusions. And the couch, people were basically saying, hey, this dude, he should go to jail. What the hell is he doing? All this good stuff. But the wardens came out, and the wardens did this whole investigation and interviewed him, made sure his story lined up, went and found the bobcat. I didn't realize this, but he shot it, and he went home and immediately called because, he knew, like, first of all, cougar, but then he also, they said he wanted nothing to do with it because they asked him, do you want it? No, he wanted nothing to do with it. Can you imagine bow hunting? And the thing he said it was coming at him. Instead of being scared and leaving, he was kind of doing that cat crap.
The
cats
stalk.
do. The stalk.
Yep.
And that's why if you put yourself in that situation, and I know a lot of people that will have opinions don't put themselves, either aren't hunters or whatever. And it's one thing to see a bear and you see a bear walking around, but when you see a feline from Lions or whatever, just watch National Geographic or whatever and see them in that crouch position, face on, where they're looking at you, and knowing the fact that they can literally pounce at any second, you don't know when that would be. Unless it's walking away from you or just kind of walking along, that's a really pretty easy decision.
Yeah, I've said it a few times. One of the freakiest things for me that I would imagine is running into a cougar, but the fact that it could be up in a tree and I don't know it.
Yeah.
And I'm walking around, and just the fact that it could jump down like that, that's one of the last things I want to see. And I think one thing too that was really well done on that one, they didn't release this until after the DA, we're not going to charge it, because if that thing would have leaked out or would have been reported before all that, I think that would have been more calls like what you were saying with those couch people saying he should go to jail, he should be fined. But I thought they did a really good job of like, let's just go through the process. The DA reviewed it all, and he cleared them of everything at that point. And I know I talked to, you probably heard it, our DNR warden Jake about this too, and he said he did everything right. He called the guy, or he called the DNR, reported it, took him out there the next day, and they found it, and he was. That's what Jake always says too. If you ever have a question, it's better to report or call, and instead of trying to lie or hide it or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the guy did it exactly right.
Yeah.
So,
And one of the things they said, like everybody was online jumping on atop a bar stool, calling Ben this reckless, ego-driven trophy hunting killer who should be heavily fined and publicly scorned. But yeah, I mean, they did all their due diligence, and the warden said he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
All the evidence lines up. So,
did you see the follow-up too? They actually tested it. So they tested that cougar.
Okay.
And it was like well fed and everything. So they were doing all that testing to see if it was like going hungry or anything like that. But apparently it was well fed and healthy and everything.
Jeez.
So.
When I was Aiden's 14, I was scared shitless every hunting morning going out when it's dark in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, but for me, I know you love these guys, but for me, it was always Bigfoot. I'm like, I'm going to see Bigfoot.
Yep.
What's that? Bigfoot's going to come up behind me and tear my head out, and I just freak myself out. But this is the stuff that I'm always like, oh, shit.
Yep.
Could this happen? Which leads us into the next one. This one is, we always share something like this, just dumbasses. And this guy was busted out in Oregon for basically poaching seven wildlife, let's see here. It was 4 elk and 3 deer. But what makes this one unique is most people believe that poachers never get, the punishment never fits the crime. That's how a lot of people feel. So what's unique about this one is, so he poached a 4x4 mule deer, 4x5 white-tail buck, elk that was a 4x4, 5x6, and a 7x7 bull that they said would be trophy type of harvest for many hunters. And they asked the judge, Janet, for a sentence that fit the crime. Now, what happened in Oregon is they passed a bill, I think it was 2018 or something like that, where they moved this kind of stuff into felony territory. And get this, you agree with it or not? I imagine I know what you two feel about this, but he will now serve jail time, 14 days in jail for the next 3 years during the elk season.
Yep.
Absolutely. Can you imagine, like if you do this with people who poach fish during the fishing season, you're in jail.
You gotta sit there. Yep.
Yeah. Or like deer season, you poach deer, from the minute bow season opens up to the minute bow season closes in January, you're sitting in jail for a year or two. Think about this. So the judge agreed to it. And like I said, he'll spend 14 days in jail while legal Oregon hunters pursue elk. But he also, on top of this, he was fined $75,000 in total. But he was also, he lost his license, hunting license suspended for life. But sitting in jail.
I know some of the naysayers will probably say, well, a poacher will still poach, find a way to poach or whatever. But I would say too that the fact that he's got caught, he's going to have extra eyes on him too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my thing right now is a lot of the hunting groups that I'm a part of. This always happens every year after the hunt. Especially the 9-day gun deer season, people will be like, hey, we need to bring back tags and we need to bring back registration stations. And their biggest argument is like, well, because without back tags, you're increasing the violation of people not registering and stuff. But this is a classic case of bad people are going to do bad things no matter what.
Yep.
So, but again, shit you can't make up. Man. So, all right, Dan Kasper, friend of the No Idea Boys. And Dan is the host of the Dan Kasper Show, heard on Sports Talk Radio 105.1 and 790 AM. You can hear him online every single morning at 6 a.m. at Sports Talk 1051.com, where you can listen to his show. You can also watch his show on YouTube and Facebook every morning starting at 6 a.m. Where can people find you? Right there. Just search Dan Kasper.
Yep. Just go YouTube, as it's like the @ sign now that they do it at Dan Kasper over there.
At Dan Kasper.
Yep.
And he also has his own podcast called the Man Cave Podcast as well. You can find that on any platform that you listen to your podcast. So Dude, okay. How did you get into radio?
Strictly by luck.
By luck. Like, in school when they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Did you say, I want to be a radio dude?
No, I knew I wanted to do something in sports though.
Okay.
And I had the mindset that as bad as this is going to sound, I shouldn't say I knew, but I figured I wouldn't be able to do what I wanted to do in sports. I remember as a kid, I wrote a letter. I was a big Orlando Magic fan, and I wanted to be a general manager. I didn't want to play. I wanted to be a general manager. So I wrote a letter to the Orlando Magic because I was a big Shaq and Penny fan. And Shaq had left to go to the Lakers, and they got Ronnie Cycling. I was so upset. I was like in fifth grade. And I proposed a trade to get Eric Montross. But I'm like, you know what? This was when the internet started to remember. I don't know if you guys remember like GeoCities, the website that you can create. I had my own website there to do sports. I actually did an outdoors one, the Natural Outdoorsman.
Damn.
The Natural Outdoorsman, it was called. And so I knew I wanted to do something like that creative, but I just didn't know what it was, And I went to college and originally was going to be a teacher, just so I could coach and be involved in sports, and changed that. Well, first actually it was going to be conservation, and then it went to teacher, and then it ended up being kinesiology here at UW-Eau Claire, but more of a sports management. I'm like, I want to be an athletic director, but not necessarily for like a high school. Well, that was Parks and Rec, YMCA's sports director, that sort of stuff. So that's where I got my first job, was at Wisconsin Rapids as being their youth sports director. I wanted to be involved with kids and helping kids out. But while I was doing that too, like me and a buddy, and this was right around the Favre and Rodgers, drama there. And a buddy of mine lived in Indiana, so we started our own Packers show on Blog Talk Radio. And so we would do that like one night a week, and it was like perfect timing because it was leading up to Super Bowl 45 too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, this is a lot of fun. And I always had, buddies of mine would always kind of tease me, like, just remembering useless sports knowledge. Like if there was a Harvard for stupid sports stuff, that I would have been the dean of that. Like I had every NBA Rookie of the Year memorized from the 90s, 80s, and all that stuff. But anyways, we were at Rapids, and we were just kind of doing fun with that. And my wife and I, at that time, we were engaged in that, but we wanted to move back to Eau Claire. And she already had a job, and I'm just trying to find a job just to get back here. And took a job as a traffic director, it's called. And at first, when I first saw that, I'm like, I don't want to go and say what's on Claremont Avenue, back up over there. Or like, and
we have a fender bender on
right,
Claremont.
Exactly.
Your commute is now 5 minutes longer.
So I'm like, I looked at it more as like, okay, it's like placing commercials into playlists. So the commercials you hear, that's what it was, is you place those. So I'm like, I'm just going to take it, get in here, and see what happens. It's not going to be a long-term thing. So I took it, and that's where like Wax Radio and all those stations are. And when I started 12 and a half years ago, the sports station they had was all syndicated ESPN radio. It was like on 1150 too, so the signal was really weak. And, I was there for a while, and they found out that, I'd like sports and that, and so they let me do 1 minute sports like every other day. 1 minute, 2 minute. I shit you not, it took me a half an hour to cut like a 1 minute, 2 minute thing, because I wanted it to be perfect every single time, Turned into that. Then they ended up switching the news station to add a little bit more sports programming on there. Ended up doing like a 10-minute show, half-hour show, hour show, and then 2016 they went all from news talk to sports talk, and that's kind of where it's at right now.
Which was the best decision.
Yes.
Because we got you, and yeah. Well, that's awesome. So if someone were to tell the Dan 12, 15 years ago that you'd be at a radio station with your own radio show, doing what you're doing on all these platforms, you'd probably laughed at them?
Probably, because I even remember, like, I thought I was like, doing this blog talk radio thing, and podcasts were starting to become a thing a little bit. And I remember was it the Packers? I think it was the Packers, or maybe it was like PackersNews.com had a job opening for a writer. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm going to send my resume. And, I do this for about 2 months now. Never got a call back. Weird. But yeah, honestly, I never would have thought that. And that's why I think, like, seeing what you guys are doing, it reminded me so much of how I kind of got going too. And it's so cool to see that. I mean, you guys are way far advanced than, anything we started. I mean, it's
all for looks.
It is.
Look good, play good.
Yeah.
I go to the sermon of Dion too. Look good, play good.
Look good, play good.
Absolutely. So you're saying 12 years from now, Aaron and I are gonna quit our jobs and just
You'll be on like Outdoor Channel.
We'll be the Pac McAfee
of the outdoors.
Of the outdoors.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll be standing up with my shirts off and just yelling at the camera
With the cutoffs and everything.
With the
too.
cutoffs, and it'll be awesome.
I can see that, man.
Yeah, and we'll be paying Steve Ranella like $1 million to be our guest.
Yeah.
Woo!
And then Steve's gonna go on a darkness retreat. And
Yeah, jeez,
it'll be fun.
So a majority. I mean, it's I would say you can correct me if I'm wrong, but 80% is all sports. It's sports, sports, and here in Wisconsin, we highlight Packers, Badgers, Bucks, and the Brewers. And it just so happens that at the time of the recording of this podcast, the Packers just came off of a Monday night loss to the Giants. So I have a question for you before we get into it.
It's not even 24 hours yet, man.
I know. Before we get into it, what do you dread more? Or no, what's harder, to lead a radio sports talk show after a Packer win, or is it harder to get engagement after a Packer loss?
It's harder to get engagement after a win.
Okay.
It's easier to get engagement after a loss. It's more frustrating, though, to do a show after a loss, though, because you feel almost like a psychiatrist or a therapist a little bit here, because that's the one downfall of that all. And, it's no fault to anybody, but it's like you are kind of the sounding board for a lot of frustrated fans.
Yep.
So you kind of take all that and it's like, man, I'm depressed now even more. Hearing everybody else kind of come to you with your frustrations.
Definition of fandom.
Yeah.
So what is what's your initial take of last night?
It was a team that lost on all phases, and I know a lot of people don't still. Or I don't know if it's a lot, but there's a vocal few. It looked like a team that still is very inexperienced.
Yeah.
A team that was very not ready to go out there, coaching wise, player wise. Jordan Love, for all the great stuff that he has been doing the last couple of weeks, did not look sharp. Special teams, blunders, penalties, and I mean, pick something. There was something. It was on all phases last night, and I think that includes coaching. And for all that too, they still had a shot. They still had a shot.
And I think that's where you see it definitely was an inexperienced, a young team loss. Just the mistakes that were made all the way across the board, including the coaching, like you said. But to be in the game at the end and then to take the lead like they did, that shows you, I think, some maturity from the players, that you can still play bad and be in the position to win games.
Yes,
and that's indicative of a solid team. Again, the fact that we're sitting here thinking that they control their own destiny.
They're in the playoffs.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
I like you, man. With your you need to tell more fans that stuff too, man.
So,
I like that.
So segue into my next point, because it bugs I don't know if it bugs the shit out of my brother, but it probably
here we go.
It's comical. I think it's comical for him that I come onto your podcast and talk Packer stuff, because I never played football.
No, you don't even watch the games.
I do. I watch
He'll
the
be
games.
texting about the Packer game, and I'll be like, "Oh, are you watching?" No, I'm in the bowl stand. I was like, "What the? You're just reading Twitter and shit.
I'm
like,
watching
you don't even
it on
watch
Twitter.
the shit."
I'm watching it on Twitter.
He never played. He doesn't.
But
he can't even identify an odd or an even front on defense. So it's like, what are you doing, giving your hot takes? It's like,
and it was it's just funny. So I like it bugs him so much. So when I come on your podcast, I'm like, oh God, this is gonna be so fun. And so.
And I just put that shit in a bank too.
Okay.
Like when Aaron talks, and I'll listen to it, and I'll bank it
Then
for a couple weeks later. I'll bring it back up,
and he brings it in throws it in my face. But you said boom. But
awesome.
Okay, question though, for someone who doesn't know, odd even fronts. Was last night, okay, first of all, did anyone in here when they scored the go-ahead feel like, okay, Green Bay's defense is going to put this away?
No.
Second of all, was it just me who never played? Did it feel, though, like last night the defense was just way more vanilla than it was the previous?
They did not bring pass pressure at all. They
Yeah,
run blitz.
okay.
They run, and they
What's
were
that-
honed in on
What's
Barkley.
that thing where linemen switch when they
Stunts
say
and all that.
Stunts and twists and stuff,
I didn't
yeah.
see any of that.
No, they definitely were sitting back waiting for DeVito to
And
make
yet-
mistakes.
yeah,
and
and
he's an NFL quarterback, and I know he's
Yeah.
young and he shouldn't get
Yeah.
beat by him, but it's like he's also an NFL quarterback. Like he's gonna have a good game, and he had a good game. You got to give him credit. Like
And that's the frustrating thing is, yes, I agree. They're a young team. But on that defensive line, they're not, I mean, those are veterans. They're made up of veterans. And they just were, it was weird. It was like night and day difference between the last 3 weeks and
It
last
reminded
night.
me a lot of the Pittsburgh game.
Yeah.
Where, you had a younger quarterback, Kenny Pickett, receivers, and you'd think you'd go in like, okay, that was the first game they had Valentine and Ballantyne starting. And a lot of teams would like, okay, we're going to go after those corners, right? Pittsburgh just ran the ball, and had a lot of success with it. And there's that nugget, and I brought this up a couple times. Patrick Mahomes' worst quarterback rating, his 2 starts, is against Joe Barry. But Joe Barry has to realize, okay, you can slow down Patrick Mahomes. You can't play that same style of defense against a DeVito, a Kenny Pickett, those guys that are going to not try to, you can't rely on those guys to win you a ball game.
Right.
You can slow down those top tier quarterbacks, but you go up against, like you said, they were waiting back for DeVito. Put a little bit more pressure on him to make that mistake, though, too.
Yeah.
the one thing that we did see last night though is that you didn't see in a lot of other games, and they probably didn't see a whole lot on film, was DeVito he's mobile.
Yeah.
Like he's not a running quarterback, but he's very, very mobile.
Yep.
And I don't care what defense you are. You go back 20 years in the NFL, no defense is good against a really mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
Not a running quarterback, just a mobile quarterback. And that made it tough because they were bringing 4, and there's way too many alleys for him to just get out and run. Because they did get pressure once in a while, but it was quick
Yeah.
pop out and go.
Yep.
But now, after last night's game, Packers rank 31 out of 32 teams for rushing defense. They are the worst rushing defense. That's just been like,
And most of those yards, I think, from the rushing standpoint last night were all DeVito.
Yeah.
They bottled up Barkley. I mean, you could tell the game plan was
You take away that 34-yard run he had, it was like 19 carries for 50-some yards.
Yep,
And you'd
correct.
take that any day of the week against Saquon.
Yep.
Well, it is what I don't.
But they left it open on the back end with the passing game then.
Yep.
And it was it's one of those deals where you can see when they're clicking from a coaching standpoint where you're making the other team adjust to your adjustments.
Yes.
And the script was flipped.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
we were trying to make adjustments based on what they were doing. And that's coaching 101. But that was just one of those games where they were playing from behind all the time.
And that,
Yeah.
the perfect example of that, I think, is Kansas City when they went out there, and they scored right away, and you're making Spagnolia and that top 5 defense adjust to what they're doing
Yep,
on the
correct.
offensive side.
Oh, hey. This just popped up on Twitter. Matt LaFleur called another end around. Boom.
You got my ears perked when you first said that. I'm like, wait a minute, breaking news here.
You're like, I gotta go back to the station. Hold on. Okay, really quickly, let's just kind of skim on these. Badgers. Okay, Badgers. I felt football wise, I'm like, dang, they showed, I think, the potential. It was exciting, at least, to finally bring the axe back. I say finally because it's only been 2 years after we had it for 20-some.
You ask a lot of
1,000.
Badgers, that's too long, though.
I know
too,
that's
so,
way
yeah.
too long. So that's cool, and they just got the dude that kept flip flopping,
Oh, yeah, Leon.
Leon.
Leon Lowry.
Yep. They just picked him. Yeah, they got him, and
How old are you?
37.
Okay, so you weren't quite to. I remember being on Water Street during homecoming when the block punt. Was
block
it
punt and Leonard
yep,
blocked it.
blocked it and scored, and that was the
In the
start
old
of the
Metrodome.
long. They got the axe back, and then we had it from that point on.
Yeah, I
We were at
still
a
have the
house party
scar.
on Water Street during homecoming, UW Eau Claire homecoming, and it was.
I still have a scar because I was sitting at the table at Dooley's Pub, and I jumped up and hit my head on the light. It was awesome. So, The basketball program, I think, is playing above expectations. I mean, although they really didn't put up a fight against number 1 Arizona.
No, but you had your freshman Blackwell coming off the bench and putting up 17.
Yeah.
Between him and AJ Storr, those two, I think, if they stay around for the next couple of years, they're going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Storr is a freak athlete.
Yep.
I mean, he is so athletic. His first step is,
And he's 6'7", too.
Yeah,
That's the best
crazy.
part. Yep.
So, okay. Bucks, what's going on with the Bucks? Are you worried?
You know, it's a weird first quarter of the season because they're one game out of first place. Yet you're hearing a lot of Bobby Portis apparently calling out the coach after the in-season tournament, calling out his teammates. And I'm like, Bobby, you scored 4 points though too in that game too. So it's like calling the kettle hot or black there too. But I just wonder if a lot of it is because the expectations were so high, kind of like Badger football, where they came in. Damian Lillard's in there. You got Giannis. This is going to be a super team. That any little blip is going to be so magnified with this team. And, it doesn't help that it's getting to that point now where people are talking about body language with Giannis, which is giving me flashbacks to Aaron Rodgers now with body language.
Yep.
But all that little stuff I think is so magnified because the attention and the pressure is so high on this group when you make a move to bring in a Damian Lillard. And, it's a first-year head coach. There's going to be adjustments. There's going to be, some, kind of getting used to each other. But I think still that Terry Stotts move of leaving a week before the season started, he was your main assistant head coach. He was your offensive guy. And he was with Dame for 9-8 years in Portland. I still don't think we've found out the true story why he left a week before the season started. Right. And that might have been the first glimpse. Okay, is there something else, behind the scenes?
Yeah.
A little bit. But now I think you kind of have to wonder, I don't think we're there yet, but if you start to hear more of these rumblings and rumors, is it, to lack of a better phrase, the inmates running the asylum? With a first-year head coach, do those players all right, no, this is what we're going to do, coach. It's not that established veteran coach. Because I do wonder if they would have hired a guy like Nick Nurse, who's in Philly right now, won a championship with Toronto. Are we hearing that stuff? Yeah. I don't think we are. But the fact that it's a first-year head coach, you kind of start to hear that stuff a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not going to a lot of the talking heads say, we're not even at Christmas yet. So
right, yeah,
for the NBA season, we, it's hard to imagine that they could still be easily playing in June yet. So we got a long way. There's a lot of ball game left. So,
But then as one of the more depressing things as a small market baseball fan is to see the deal that just happened with the Dodgers.
Did you see that deferred money?
I know.
My God.
What I just don't get is how these small market teams like the Brewers, how are you going to compete? The future's so bleak.
You are going to have to do what they did with Cheerio and take more gambles and risks that way.
Yeah.
Meaning find them young.
Yep.
And lock them up, sign them so that if they produce, you can say, whoa, that's a good deal.
Yep. You got a bargain.
And then pray and cross your fingers that they don't turn into I don't know, like Ryan Braun at the end of his career
or even maybe a Yelich.
Or a Yelich.
Pat Listash.
Yep. Yeah, get I got a signature right up over there. Right up on there, underneath the deer. Yeah.
He was at Memorial High School. He did a meet and greet.
Even two Aaron on there. Look at that.
I know. That's customized. I know. I like that. Well, so there's that. But like you said, that's the direction the Brewers have to go in all these small market teams. But then it all started with Council bailing and heading to our rivals, the Devil.
Jackass. I like him too.
I hope he doesn't. I hope he's not listening.
I hope he is now. Actually,
right. But it's hard. It's the cards are stacked, and I don't know if we'll ever see a salary cap in Major League Baseball in our time. If there ever will be.
The players. I mean, the players union for baseball, and we've seen it. It seems like every few years, those two and the management for baseball, they go at it. They take forever to agree on anything, and players union never will agree to that.
And so at the end of the season, your hopes were where compared to where they are now better yet, the outlook that you have for the Brewers is where today versus end of September?
My outlook is, the thing is, it's such a I feel like they're going to start the season still with Corbin. I know that's the main question. Are they going to trade Corbin, Willie Adames? I feel like they're going to start the season with those guys, and then they'll get to that trade deadline and see where they're at.
Okay.
And then if they're, if it's clearly they're out of playoff contention, you're going to say bye-bye to those guys. And I would get that. I would understand that. You got to get something in return for those guys. But when you look at how this team is currently constructed, it eerily, to put an example, it kind of reminds me a little like a Ted Thompson Packers team, where they've got that bridge where they're going to be competitive enough to maybe get in that postseason. Then let's see what happens. I mean, you look at the bridges are there. Pat Murphy, Ricky Weeks is going to be the manager in a few years. I mean, that's a foregone conclusion. So you got him there. It's on-job training. Jackson Chirio, he may be opening day starter. There's a bridge already right there. All those young guys, they want to have that team so they're at least competitive and not have that total rebuild. I don't think they're a playoff team right now.
Yeah.
But you know what? They've surprised us a lot the last few years, and I guess we'll really find out if that was council or if that was front office moves to bring in those players too.
Ricky Weeks. You want to see look at his rookie card compared to his last year card? Yeah, he grew a little bit magically.
So one of the things, if you recall, in your podcast, I talked about what was that term, Adam, that you call me?
Couch coach.
Coach, baby.
Coach.
Every year on Facebook, the opening day of NFL, I have a post that goes out because I have friends that don't even text me anymore because I just chew them out because they don't text me during a game because you don't know what you're talking about because you hear them all the time calling in the next day.
Oh,
I mean and they need it's nothing. No, it is something against them. I mean, it's just, it's like, dude, just it's just unreal how delusional some takes can be by the couch coaches. Like I said, I call Aaron the couch coach all the time.
Yep.
Because
So when I said that, and you're like, dude, that's so funny. My brother went and ordered a gift for you.
Oh, God.
2 gifts. So we got a hat.
Oh my God.
And we have a coffee cup. Coffee cup right there. Couch coach.
That's awesome.
There you go.
The irony of it is I've listened to your show, and what I like about your show is I wouldn't consider you a couch coach. I'd consider some of your callers like Aaron as a couch coach. But I hope you enjoy it.
That is awesome.
Add that.
That is awesome.
Add that to your man
Thank
cave.
you.
Or your,
Absolutely, man. That is so cool. But you're right. I mean, to get a little real, sometimes it is hard, to, because you want to be respectful of everybody's opinion too, because everybody's got that right for that too. But it's there's some of them, it's the one that really grinds my gears, if you will.
Yep.
Are the takes he's lost the locker room. How the hell do you know if he's lost the locker room? You're not in there. You don't know what's going, that sort of stuff. It's
and it's so perfect example too is Aaron is going on about this jet sweep with Reed. Okay. Obviously, from the surface level, as a fan, it looks like, they're running that a lot. These guys spend hundreds of hours in the film room, and they know they're trying to place things like pawns. And again, they're trying to get the defense to go here. And then once they go there, then they'll do this. And then once they do that, then they're going to do this. That we cannot conceptualize how complex that is. And it's all based off of just football's getting so much like the Billy Bean type of stuff where it's all just numbers.
Yep.
It's all just we're going to go do this based on this stat. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's kind of like that sweep type of a thing too. It's they ran it a lot last night, and we can sit here and debate, but we're also getting one. I love watching football games in stadiums from the end zone. Mm-hmm. That is a whole different view of the game. My father-in-law was a defensive coordinator over at DC Everest through all their glory years, knows football big time. I love watching games with him because you start, what are they doing? And he can pick things out that you would never even know or think about.
Exactly. Yep.
And it's frustrating, though, talking football with somebody who really knows it, though, too, because all they talk about is the O-line and D-line play. That's all they talk about.
Yep.
So that cliche of it all starts at the line.
Up front with the big boys. Yep.
So there you go. So, okay, let's move on. Let's close up here. Dan, you are also an avid outdoorsman. On the webpage, it says you can find Dan in the woods, on the lake, camping, but you can also find him in the backyard doing one of his favorite things, grilling out. And my question for you, and you got to be very careful how you answer this because of the guy sitting next to you, is are you a pellet grill or are you a charcoal?
Charcoal.
Okay.
Attaboy.
Yeah, charcoal.
I've
got both. Pellet is easier, but charcoal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
But you also, do you still have the DK Outdoors?
A little bit here and
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. But
a little bit.
you mix in outdoors and sharing your thoughts, but you, on your radio show about outdoors, you bring on a game warden.
Yep, Jake.
Jake, every single Thursday, I think it is, where
Yep.
listeners can text in questions that they have. And boy, do we have some questions that are, I mean, when you think about where we are with hunting, and listening to the questions, I think the last month and a half, it's constantly been asking about drones.
Yes, I was just going to say that's the most popular
Drones,
one. Yep.
and then night scopes, night vision kind of stuff. So I mean, that just shows where we're heading and what's going on with hunting. But how did you, growing up in Medford, right?
Yep.
How did you get into it? Was your father a hunter?
It was a family thing. My grandpa, my aunt, I still hunt with my aunt too. It was just something it was grown up to do. I started sitting when I was 6, 7, carrying the BB gun.
Yep.
While that's where one thing, I think it kind of gets overlooked. I don't know how you guys do it, but I think that's what really kind of got me into hunting too. I would go sit with family members while they're bow hunting, but they would let me bring the BB gun. Porcupine comes out or a squirrel comes out, I'm making noise. Now I look back at it, I'm like, dang, I was kind of ruining their hunt, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that was a big thing that got me to, because then I wanted to go every weekend. I wanted to go out there. I wanted to, experience that. And so I was doing that since, 6, 7. The old school BB guns, one, lever action, one thing there, inaccurate as all hell.
Yep.
And then, I remember 12 years old going out bow hunting, rifle hunting, and doing the whole shebang there. And I was thinking about this actually on the way here. 25 years I've already been bow hunting, and it's like, dang, Lord, But I was sitting since I've been 6, over 30 some years.
So bow hunting's probably your jam, or any other
Yeah,
type of
we
hunting
do.
that you...
We do. I mean, it's the rifle too, but bow hunting has always kind of been that. I think that special one. Obviously, I have more success in rifle hunting because we used to go on public land too. Miller Dam, Yellow River, right across from my biggest buck. As an 8-pointer, I got public land over there. It's a shoulder mount too. But last few years, nobody did it in my family, but I just started doing it for years. I love turkey hunting now, and ever since I got my first turkey and I called it in, I've been addicted to that because to see that actually work and to hear it gobble back, it was like, oh, that was kind of like an adrenaline right there. I'm like, that's my thing right now. So
You ever do the duck hunting or
that's one thing
hunting?
I want to do.
Yeah,
I want to do that.
That's that same feeling. I've actually never been turkey hunting. They've said the same thing. Aiden and Aaron have. But goose hunting, it's the same thing. You call, and then you get them to turn, and they come right at you, and they put their wings down like they're just,
And when you're, what is it called? When you're on the X?
on the X,
On
and
the
there's
X, and
hundreds
there's
of birds around.
Coming
That's
in.
cool.
Well, here's the good news, though, is you have some friends that have a duck boat now.
That's right. It's right there.
So,
Got a little work to do.
we got a little work. So, share your thoughts, I guess, if you will, or your opinions of just the culture of hunting in Wisconsin. It's a deep, deep, rich tradition, right? I mean, it's something that you talk to anybody in Wisconsin. I mean, it's just a part of our heritage.
Yeah. What was the numbers that they had for rifle season? Like everybody in 50 states, and then how many countries across the world, or something like that. I mean, it was kind of funny when Adam was talking about finally gotten a couple days off to go rifle hunting, and it reminded me of school. When I was in school, we had to go to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but they do the prearranged for hunting.
Well, the Blaze Orange slip that you got signed by all the teachers.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like there's no other time you could do that besides it was because of hunting season. And it's just been, for that culture. It's something I grew up with. Like, I remember every weekend going to my grandparents' house, and the land we'd go to, we'd call it the 40 because it was 40 acres, you know, and I haven't been there in years. It's not in the, but I can tell you right now how to get around that place. You know, I can still remember my first deer stand on there. I mean, it was a 8-foot plywood stand that had an old TV, its tower as a ladder with a bench on there. I mean, I love looking at old tree stands, like walking through the woods and finding those old wood ones there. But, you know, and I don't pay attention to it much on social media, though, too. It's like I do kind of wonder, has that changed it a little bit for some of the youngsters out there?
Yeah.
You know, because even my son Hudson, he's a little apprehensive to go out there. I mean, he's getting a BB gun for Christmas, but
Hudson,
but
don't listen to this.
Don't listen to this, Hudson. But you know, he's even a little apprehensive. Like, I don't know if, because he sees this stuff on TV. You know, like YouTube or stuff like that. And it's like you try to control it a lot, but then he comes home from school and, you know, it's so-and-so said this or whatever. But I think what helped me, though, too, was growing up in a small town. You know, Medford was 4,000 people, the biggest city in the county.
Yep.
And I worked at high school. My job was at Shout Out Easy Stop. It's not there anymore. It was a full-service gas station, but we sold guns behind the counter and live bait.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not Wisconsin right there, that's Wisconsin in a heartbeat. And I loved it. I loved it. And you don't see that stuff anymore.
Like, you know, and that's been one of the arguments we mentioned earlier is the idea. Like, I remember you'd get done hunting for the day and you'd come into town, you'd drop stuff off at the house, and then you'd head downtown of Bruce, and you would slowly drive past each bar to see the trucks with the tailgates down and what kind of bucks they have. Then we'd go to Express Mart that was on 40 and 8, and you'd literally get out of your car and just stand there and watch people pull in and pull out, registering their deer. And you're right, you just don't have that. And we post, you know, the other thing too is we posted an article a little while ago asking the question, are we making hunting just too easy for our kids? Kind of getting at the concept of, you know, in the age of cell cameras that will send pictures to the kids and to me immediately, so that you know, it's just, are we making it harder to get kids passionate and invested in what it means to be a hunter?
And I think one of my concerns too is, like, if I'll use Hudson example, if he doesn't have luck right away, you know, is that gonna deter him? And I mean, I didn't get my first bow deer since until I was in college. You know, for bow hunting, that was like my first bow buck. I didn't get until college, and it took a few years even just to get my first doe with a bow. And now I feel like too, it's like, okay, if he doesn't have that instant success, is he gonna even want to keep going out there? You know, and that's like, how do I combat that? How do I, you know, continue to teach? Like, it's about putting in the work, and it's just enjoying your time out there. Like, that's how I go out there, and that's where I just like clear my head, man. And that's where I think about stuff, and just that's where some of, you know, my thoughts and all that stuff comes out. And I just loved being out there. And, you know, there's a long time where I wouldn't even see anything out there. Was it frustrating as a kid? Yeah, it was, but it didn't deter me. But I feel like now if I were a kid in this day and age, I kind of wonder, would it deter me to go out there or not?
Because they have so many other things to choose from. And sitting in the woods and not seeing something, is that something that's going to excite them? And I don't know. So, you know, when we talk about the state of hunting in Wisconsin today, a lot of the reflection or the opinions I hear from hunters, discouraged hunters, is because they're comparing the hunt today to what it was in 99, 2000, when I wanted to see a deer. I just got up and walked around in the woods when the deer herd was closing in on 2 million, you know, and we want that again. And so because we don't, there's just this weird vibe going on. And I think it's affecting, if you look at the numbers, the deer harvest numbers are down, and you can peel the numbers back any way you want, but the reality is they're down significantly. We're not talking single digit percentage points. We're talking about double digit. And then even licenses are fewer licensed. When we bought our cabin, the cabin next to us, there was 8-9 trucks. Now there's 8-9 trucks, and they had about 10 hunters. Now they're down to 4 hunters. The guys down at the Sugar Shack, this year we asked if the regulars were coming up, and they're like, wow, they're coming up. This one's coming for one day. The next one's coming, so they're not as regular. So you're seeing a lot, fewer hunters, a lot less deer being harvested, which then what do people do? They say, well, that's because we don't have the deer like we used to. And on top of it, they talk about wolves and predation and hunter numbers, harvest numbers. So
They all turn into couch conservationists.
oh yeah,
There's a new hat right there.
They do.
it doesn't
though.
roll off the tongue as well. or-
People just think. Again, the reasons why. First off, ecology. It pendulums. You're not always going to have 2 million deer in the state of Wisconsin. But I think the state of hunting, not just in Wisconsin, but nationwide, is a huge cultural thing with this generation, with everything that's happening with social media. And it all ties in together. We're seeing it in the workforce with kids that are coming out of high school. We see it in our generation even, because we're the first generation and the only generation that we didn't have a cell phone to sit in the deer stand with us, but now we do. So we're that first generation that had a little bit of both. It's just, to me, it's that instant gratification. We know that the child psychologists have been screaming that the dangers of all that kind of stuff with instant gratification. So yeah, it's going to be real difficult for a kid or even a teenager to just go in the woods and just sit and be, and just be there and not playing games. I catch myself doing it. That's what I'm sitting there playing euchre and all that kind of stuff, and that is going to, it's just, and then other things going on and other opportunities of just different things to do. It's
well, then
it's tough.
Then it's a comparison game too. I think with high fence farms, and they all have their own social media platforms, and we have the TVs and the shows, and then social media where people can post that perfect picture where I can turn my 8-pointer that that's about a 86-inch 8-pointer, and I can make it look like it's a 142-inch, and then filter it and post it, and everybody's like, oh my God. And then I just think I think it's negatively affecting things than what we believe it is. So
they also, the technology though, going back to that where we talked about drones and the night scope and all that kind of stuff, but also then getting into ice fishing and panoptics and all that kind of stuff. So you see the kids will see all the grip and grins and do all that kind of stuff. And that is their expectation when they go out. You don't see a beautiful grip and grin of a doe, on the back. You don't see like hundreds of those. You'll see them once in a while, but because we talked about this last year, with Warden Jeremy Perry. We had him on, and we talked about how it is, they're not earning it anymore. It goes back to that, you find a $100 bill on the ground, and then you lose it a day later, you're kind of like, that sucks. But you earn that $100 from your work, and then you lose that, now you're pissed. So same thing with, even ice fishing, panoptics. It's like, if you have the money to do that, you are going to be very successful on the ice. So even the technology aspect of how, I don't like it. I trust me, it's fun to use.
I remember using the trail timers, for deer hunting. You'd have the rope on there.
You had the rope, and they tripped them.
Yeah, and they trip them, and they're like, now you think about it, it's like, was that even a freaking deer? Or the old D battery trail cameras that took like 10 of those suckers.
And they'd last a week.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Man.
That's so. What do you? What are you just? Where do you see hunting, especially now that you have a 6-year-old? Where do you see hunting today in Wisconsin? Because ask anybody, and I can guarantee you 90%, the first thing out of their mouth is going to be, wow, those goddamn wolves and all that stuff. And you're just like, holy crap. So what's your opinion on the state of Wisconsin's hunting today?
It's definitely, different than what I remember. Like, just kind of listening to you guys go back and forth a little bit. I was thinking about what it was like when I was a kid. I mean, I grew up watching. Do you guys remember the TNN? It's now Spike TV.
Yep.
But it was TNN and like Saturday mornings.
Yep.
Real Tree.
Yeah.
Real Tree.
Real Tree.
And
Yep.
Outdoors
Yep.
and
Yep.
Bill Dance. Love Bill Dance. I could still sing that theme song out there. But those were guys I grew up watching and kind of idolizing now too. But now it's like you got kids idolizing TikTokers and YouTubers and all that stuff. Honestly, I just had this conversation with my wife the other day. Like, I'm genuinely worried that Hudson doesn't want to go hunting, and I don't want to be that parent that, no, you're going. You know, and then make him resent it.
You can't make them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to do that, but there's a part of me that is worried because of so much else going on out there. Is that something that's going to interest him? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I go down a rabbit hole. Oh, I mean, who am I going to pass the land down to? All that stuff. But it to me, I am a little concerned too, because I even remember too. You guys talk about like instant gratification and other stuff going. I remember going to these events at the Conservation Club, Chelsea Conservation Club, showing dogs and how they retrieve, a bird, or doing these archery targets or fishing a day. Do they even do that stuff anymore? At least I don't hear about doing that stuff.
And that's I just pulled it up really quick. Outdoor Kids in an Inside World.
I have that book.
That is, I think
Amazing book.
every parent's in that situation. I think you just said a big part is that conservation. And I think that's a word I wish people would use more and understand more, is conservation. And I think teaching a kid that first, or alongside with parallel with the hunting, is, I think that provides the opportunity to hook them quicker and easier than just, hey, we're going to go out and kill something so we can take a picture and post it on social media.
Right. And that's kind of where I think it benefited me going back to when I was a kid, just going to sit with all my family members carrying a BB gun. I never saw somebody shoot a deer because now I realize, well, I was screwing everybody up, but I was having fun out there. I was trying to shoot a leaf or something, or a pop can on the branch or something. But that's what got me like, okay, I want to go back. I want to keep coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So remind the listeners again, where can they find you?
Well, Facebook. They still call it Facebook?
Facebook.
Okay. X/Twitter. What do you guys call it?
I call it.
I still call it Twitter.
Yeah, I still call it
If you
Twitter.
can type in twitter.com, it's still Twitter, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
What's
So
funny
X.
though is I'll say I'll tell some of my friends like, hey, it's on X, and they'll think I'm talking about the OnX app.
Oh,
The
yeah.
hunting app.
On
Okay, it's
X.
on X. Yeah. No, I mean like Twitter.
It's on X. I wonder if on X has seen an increase in downloads.
That's a good point. Yeah. Nope. Over there, Kasper with a K too. That's been something since I've been a little kid.
Yeah.
Just having to deal with over there too. So yeah, Facebook, Twitter.
Shit,
Otherwise,
I put a C
oh, I noticed
on
that.
our
Don't worry.
show script.
I
Why
noticed
didn't you? Oh, yeah. DK. God, I'm sorry.
Dude,
I'm not going to be friends again.
Probably not for a while now. So
And then-
Adam's going to be on the podcast now. So
Yeah.
Well, it'll sound smarter. Well, no, I get it. Aaron sounds smart. It's
I
just
sound
not his
smart.
take. It's not his take.
I memorize.
Never his take.
I memorize the tweets and the blogs.
This all started with Aaron text me something. I was like, what the hell? I was like, no, you copied and pasted that from Twitter, didn't you? He goes, yep.
that's awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
It is cool. And then one last thing, put a plug in for Backyard Dreams and what that is.
So
you're huge on this.
So Backyard Dreams is kind of our charity thing that started a couple years ago. And I mean, a lot of people ask, how did you come up with that name? And I was a single kid, single parent and that. So I was in the backyard a lot, pretending to beat Michael Jordan, or beating the Cowboys, throwing the football to the clothesline, just daydreaming. Like, I still daydream to this day, and I'm a big believer. But like, okay, we're playing in the backyard dreams, that's because the goal I wanted to have was to help people, a lot of times kids, chase their dreams, chase their passions, because a lot of times kids, they should be able to go out and play football if they want to play football.
Yep.
There's a lot of, sometimes now to hear what it costs to go play football, it's like, good Lord, or if they want to go play T-ball, they should be able to go play T-ball. It's not the kid's fault that they can't afford, something like that. So we wanted to help out that way, and we've been able to do that. And actually tomorrow, so we're recording this on a Tuesday, but tomorrow, with Christmas coming up here, we're taking 10 kids Christmas shopping.
Oh, cool.
Mills Fleet Farm, where we're going over there, and they can spend it on themselves. They can, spend it on their family or friends, or do a little bit of a mixture. But it's 10 kids who, again, it's whether they're coming from a lower income because their parents can't afford Christmas gifts for them, or they've got some health issues going on. But we're gonna take them Christmas shopping so they can load up over there too. But my goals, I've always wanted to help kids out, just kind of based off of how I grew up too, and making sure that, if you can chase your dreams, you can accomplish your goals, and there shouldn't be something like money that deters you from doing that. If there's a little bit that, we can help out that way, that's the goal.
Okay.
For Backyard Dreams.
Cool. So you can find Backyard Dreams where?
sportstalk1051.com. We got a listing of all the stuff that we've been able to help out over there
Awesome.
too. So
That is so cool,
Sweet.
man. And again, this is Dan Kasper, and you can find him online anywhere. You can listen to him every single morning, no matter where you're located in the world. That's kind of the cool thing.
we do have a listener from London.
Ooh,
Nice.
Yeah, he's a Lions fan though.
That's too bad.
that is
I will say this, Dan, before we wrap this thing up. I think one of the things, just talking with a lot of the people, is how down to earth you are.
Yeah.
a lot of sports media people can be very arrogant, and you're definitely not that. I mean, you're very down to earth, and I think that comes through in all your shows and what you do. So I know a lot of especially, the Eau Claire area is getting bigger,
Yeah.
and that's good for business like yourself. But I think a lot of our local people appreciate just how it's just real and down to earth. So
I don't
appreciate
like
it.
to. Well, I appreciate that because I don't like to script anything, and I really don't script anything on there. And I always chuckle when I hear some of those sports people say they're not a fan of a team or anything like that. I'm like, you know what? I can't turn that off. The reason why I like sports is because I was a fan
Yep.
of a team. Do some overdo it? Yeah, of course. But that's one of my bugaboos too, is when I hear those, and I get it, they have to do it, but it's like, but why did you get into it to begin with? Because you were a fan of somebody or some team over
Yeah.
there. And I'm not smarter than anybody else. I just like having conversations with people about it.
Yeah.
Sitting at the bar stool.
Speaking of fans, one of my favorite things to do is when the Vikings lose dramatically is go on and try to find the Paul Allen call of it, because I cannot stand him, and they are the worst calls.
they're horrible.
When I did the radio show when they had the Super Bowl in Minnesota, Radio Row, because
Yep.
Paul Allen had his there, most obnoxious guy there.
Oh my God.
You could hear him over everybody.
Yeah.
Like saying, everybody clap for Mike Florio, because Florio's a big Vikings fan too. Pro Football Talk. So it's like, oh, dude,
This is not the This is not the Lions.
this isn't Detroit.
This isn't Detroit. When Favre threw that interception, I loved it.
Couple plugs, Aaron.
Yes, go
shout
ahead.
out to SRE Gear.
Yes.
Check them out. We have our episode on our top 6 Christmas gift ideas for the outdoor enthusiasts. Check that out. They are awesome. I ordered the flashlight, and it was in the mail later that day.
Yeah,
And
I
it
had the
arrived
headlamp
next
I
day.
needed before hunting, and
So
they
check
are in
them out.
Toma and Black River Falls.
GSO, Gold Standard Outdoors, where
Yep.
I just ordered up a couple of ice fishing rods from them. They're coming hopefully in the next couple of days. Get our hands on those, do some reviews.
And you can watch that podcast with Joe right here.
And then last but not least, not going to say
We're-
too much.
Yeah, we're teasing this.
This is it's King Cooler with a K. King Cooler, like Casper with a K, Aaron.
Yes.
It's a
Touche.
beverage wrap, not necessarily koozie, but it's like that. We're going to have more information coming out about this, but we are now an official affiliate with them, which is really kind of cool because that's our first. But we'll give some more information about King Cooler. Just stay tuned because they got some pretty cool products Aaron and I are just trying out right now. Kind of testing them out so we can give you some information about those.
I love they got a hold of us and they said, hey, we watched a couple of your videos. You guys like to drink beer.
Yep.
We have something
We have something for you.
and we think this would be a good partnership. And we're like, sweet.
Heck
So-
yeah.
So we'll come out with more information and a full review on that with some links.
But in the
for you.
meantime, we'll have the affiliate link down below because if
Correct.
you purchase these before Christmas, these would be a great gift.
Yeah.
It helps our YouTube channel out as well. So
You bet.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. And again, if you haven't already subscribed, we'd love for you to subscribe. To those of you watching and listening that have subscribed, thank you so much. It means so much to us as well. Okay.
Good talk.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. We try it every time. He almost got it.
Yeah,
You're supposed to say, see you out there. Ready? Okay.
Good talk.
See you out there.
No idea.